let's begin. Adam, are you ready to continue? Great.
Yeah,
So thanks again, everyone. My name is Martha McClary. I am with BNA Studios, and we are going to take a moment to do a land acknowledgement before we start the meeting. So the City of Courtenay and the project team respectfully acknowledges that the lands to which this OCP apply are on the unceded territory of the Comox First Nation, the traditional keepers of this land. And in the spirit of reconciliation, the City of Courtenay and the entire project team makes this land acknowledgement to raise awareness of ongoing Indigenous presence and land rights in the territory. That includes and encompasses Courtenay. It invites us, as settler government, to reflect on how we might be perpetuating colonial processes that are ongoing and from which we have benefited, as well as the changes we will make to honor the Indigenous peoples and their lands that we inhabit. So thank you for joining us this evening. And I'll do a quick round of project team introductions. So my name is Martha. I'm an engagement specialist with BNA Studios. I'm joined by my colleagues from BNA as well as representatives from the City of Courtenay, Nancy, the Manager of Community Plan and Sustainability Planning, as well as Marianne Wade, the Director of Development Services. The project team for today, although we are supported by some other technical experts on the team, is Adam, and I'll let Adam introduce himself.
thanks so much, Martha. Adam Mattinson, and as she mentioned, I'm leading the team alongside our awesome staff here at BNA, and we're also supported by engineering consultants at Applin Martin and economic consultants at City Square Consulting. So thank you so much. Pleasure to have you here tonight.
Darby, who's also a planner, I'll let her introduce herself. She'll be helping with some of the technical questions for those of you dropping chats and questions in the app. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Darby.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight. My name is Darby Henshaw. I'm a planner with BNA Studios. And yeah, as Martha said, I'll just be helping out behind the scenes. So if you do have any questions or anything or need some support, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly or just in the chat. Thanks.
Well, I will introduce the meeting agenda, and we have a couple people continuing to trickle into the session. So every now and then we'll pause just to remind everyone how to use the app and interact with us. So again, within the app, within Zoom, at the bottom of the screen, you will see a Q&A tab or a chat tab, and you can chat or send a question to our team, and we'll do our best to respond. We're going to hold off for today's meeting agenda for questions until the end of the session. We'll get through our presentation, which is about 15 minutes, and then we'll have time for everyone to ask their questions, and we'll go through the questions we've received. But please do drop in questions as they come up during the presentation. So following this introduction, we are going to do an overview of the official community plan. Take a moment to see where it's at currently today and give a bit of a refresh of where it was left off from the engagement that took place. And then Adam will also take us through a bit about how this project of the official community plan update will proceed. So we'll give a little bit of detail around the timeline, the type of technical analysis that will be undertaken, and opportunities for you to get involved. After we get through that, we're going to pause, answer your questions, and make sure we get through that. That'll be the bulk of this evening's presentation. So as I've mentioned a few times, drop your questions in the chat at any point during the presentation, and we'll get through as many as we can within the hours time slot we have this evening. And we appreciate all the comments we receive. All the comments we receive are going to be collected, shared with the project team, and we'll also post some of the common questions we've been getting to the social pinpoint page. So there's going to be a summary coming out of this meeting of the questions we've received. And again, just to go over the purpose. Fundamentally, today we really are here just to kind of do a refresh and remind everyone of the official community plan, as well as then talk about why are we doing an official community plan update, what's next, and how you can get involved. So the real purpose today, hopefully you leave with some further understanding about what the project will go through and and how you can continue to be involved throughout the project. So to start off, we're going to introduce our interactive polls. We have a few polls we're going to be asking throughout the session. So we would like to make sure everyone's comfortable using this. And we have our first poll of the evening, which is our icebreaker poll. A very important question to the project, beach or mountains. So we'll launch that poll now, and we're going to give everyone a minute just to get comfortable using the poll function. So you should have something popping up in your app. You select your option, and then you do have to hit submit. So make sure it's 2 clicks, your selection and then a submit, so that we can see everyone's responses. if anyone's having any trouble, do reach out. We can help navigate some of those participation issues. But we'll maybe close the poll there. And for this group this evening, Beach takes it. Our earlier session at noon, it was an even split. So appreciate your participation in that. Now we'll move on to our first official poll. What is your connection to Courtenay? Choose the best answer. I know many on the call might have more than one that apply to them, but please select the answer that best applies to your connection to Courtenay. Oh, great. Okay. So we have most of you report living here, owning a business, and also with other ties to the area. Fantastic. I'm now going to pass things over to Nancy, who's going to take us through a little bit more about the OCP, the official community plan, and some of the history of how it came to be.
Thank you, Martha. So yeah, just to talk about what OCPs are in general, and then what the city of Courtenay's OCP is, the last one being 2022. That was adopted in 2022. So an OCP is a visionary public and community policy planning document. They get adopted as a bylaw by mayor and council, and they must adhere to the Local Government Act requirements for such documents. OCP's official community plan. They inform municipal spending, services, and capital projects, and they provide policies to evaluate new development applications. The Local Government Act does not require that everything in an OCP be implemented, but it does require that everything the city does implement be consistent with their adopted OCP. Until recently, OCPs were common but not required in BC, but now they are actually required and must contain policies and land use designations to ensure sufficient land supply for 20 years of anticipated housing need. And in a highly desirable community such as Courtenay, this means that we're anticipating growth, and which means more homes. Where a community is also subject to a regional growth strategy, which the Comox Valley is, the OCP must be consistent with said regional growth strategy, also referred to as the RGS. In short, OCPs are high-level, long-range documents, and they provide clarity for how the city of Courtenay will make decisions on included topics when working on topics within its scope. Courtenay's last OCP was adopted in 2022 following extensive public engagement, including through that COVID-19 pandemic. And just to give you a point of reference on our previous OCP, it was from 2005. So there was a really long time between the one from 2005 and then the one in 2022. And Courtenay did not expect to be updating our OCP so soon, since our 2022 one. But we are now required to, as per the provincial regulation of the 20 years of housing, and as such, the OCP review will be targeted to those housing needs. Just now turning to the core directions of our existing OCP, it is informed by 4 cardinal directions. They're reconciliation, climate action, community well-being, and equity. And those are all used to inform objectives, policies, etc. of the plan, all in pursuit of the vision, which is Courtenay is responsible for the future, supporting high quality of life with a low carbon footprint for all. And that vision was derived in consultation with the community. And then moving on to our goals. Through the lenses of the 4 cardinal directions, a number of goals for Courtenay's community and growth are identified. And these are, I'll just read them out. The land is valued as a precious resource. What that means is being really intentional about how land is used, because we certainly know it's not, more of it's not being made. That there are in fact housing choices for all. That our neighborhoods are strong and have great placemaking opportunity within them, that there's functional transportation choices. That means opportunities for vehicles, cycling, walking, and transit, all those modes. That there's more space for and time in nature, including right in our neighborhoods. That there's celebration and love of our local culture and those places that exemplify that culture. That the city is one that is for everyone. and that our economic success emerges from our community values and what's important and opportunities from this place. And finally, that the City of Courtenay invests in relationships to make this community great. And then I'll just talk about the land use plan here. So on the right-hand side is an image of the land use designations. So an OCP contains what are called land use designations, which are used to inform what specific zone or zones may be appropriate for different parts of the city. And that's the image on the right. But to get to determining the land use designations, the 2022 OCP project team created a higher level growth concept that informs where growth will be prioritized on the vision, directions, goals, objectives of the OCP. So this is the image on the left, the growth concept. So the 2022 OCP restricts new development to within Courtenay's boundaries and focuses it within core areas through the urban framework hierarchy of primary growth centers, those are shown in red, secondary growth centers, those are shown in orange, and the population and the housing needs in the 2022 OCP were projected to be able to accommodate 70% of the then identified housing needs and population within those two primary growth centers and secondary growth centers. And then you can see in the lighter yellow, that's referred to as infill areas, the remaining neighborhoods. And then you can see the biodiversity corridor in green and water courses in blue, which are to be protected. So with that very brief orientation to our existing OCP, I'll turn back to Martha and Adam.
So continuing on with our polls, we're curious to know, did you participate in the past OCP engagement that Nancy referenced? And we'll launch that poll. Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. So actually, many on the call have, and of course, there's some that are new to, or who did not. Now we're going to pass it back over to Adam. He's going to take us through a little bit more about what's going to occur through the official community plan, the OCP update, and a little bit more about the project timeline.
Thank you so much, Nancy and Martha, for that great introduction and for setting the stage with an overview of where we've come from. Now I'm going to walk us through the next part of today's session, which is all about where we're headed. We're going to focus on the next steps for Courtenay's official community plan. What's driving this update? What's changing? What's staying the same? And how you can get involved in shaping our future together. Let's begin with the why. In late 2023, the province of British Columbia introduced new housing legislation. One of the key changes is that all local governments must ensure that their official community plans provide enough land to support 20 years of housing need, along with a new methodology to identify that housing need through a standardized calculation. That means that we need to revisit our current plan to make sure we're aligned with provincial requirements, and most importantly, that we're prepared for Courtenay's future growth. There are three major changes that prompted this update alongside the provincial requirement. First, in the context of Courtenay, we're growing faster than we expected. The 2021 census data that came out right as the 2022 OCP was being finalized, it showed that, in fact, we were seeing stronger population growth than had originally been projected in a forecast at the time of the 2022 plan's preparation. Second, we're now planning for an outlook to a horizon of 2041, which extends the planning outlook beyond the previous 2030 horizon and increases the number of homes we need to account for. Third, our recent housing needs forecast, adopted in 2024 by Council, identified the need for 8,350 new homes by 2041. That's a big number, and it means we need to think carefully about where and how we grow. Now, while we're planning for more growth, the foundation of the OCP, or official community plan, remains solid. The four cardinal directions that Nancy mentioned, reconciliation, climate action, community well-being, and equity, continue to guide our work. As well, the overall vision and goals of the 2022 OCP still reflect our values as we move through this analysis and through this update. That said, some of the policies and objectives will need to evolve to better reflect our updated data, our housing needs, and our longer-term outlook. So now time for yet another question here, throwing it back to the audience. And I'd like to bring Darby in to assist with another poll here. So specifically, this question this time around, we'd like to know how familiar you are with Courtenay's current official community plan. And I see we have some new attendees that have joined us as well. So it looks like a fairly good spread here. Some folks that have are familiarized with themselves with the document, and some that this is something new to them. So we welcome you all, and we're happy to have you engaged in this process. So based on where we're going right now, let's take a look at what will be updated. And to that effect, we are focusing on 4 key areas of the plan. The first is where and how Courtenay grows. This includes land use and development patterns, understanding what has been happening recently and what it might mean for the future. The second is expanding housing choices. So we're not just adding homes, but adding the right kinds of homes for community members across all walks of life and economic status, which means not only looking at market housing, but also different forms of supportive and affordable housing within our community. Third is supporting growth in infrastructure, parks, and amenities, ensuring that we continue to grow in a complete and balanced way that looks at everything, not just housing, but also looking at opportunities for jobs, how our roads are able to support people moving around, including active transportation options and transit, as well as having access to open spaces, parks, facilities, and access to nature, which is recognized as a key component of our key goal and objective of the 2022 plan. Finally, 4, we want to make sure that the plan is updated to align with recent strategic plans and policies, making sure that the official community plan update integrates with other major initiatives like the Complete Community Growth Assessment, recently adopted updates to the city's Parks and Recreation Master Plan, the recently adopted Flood Management Plan, along with various other studies and policy updates that have been adopted by Council and brought forward by staff since the finalization and adoption of the 2022 plan. Our approach is informed by a mix of technical analysis and engagement. To this end, we are drawing from a mix of different sources, including data on development trends and infrastructure capacity, recent policy works and reports that have been prepared by the region, by the local municipal staff and partners, feedback from city staff and advisory groups who we're actively engaging with, and most importantly, input from the public, including your input today and at many other touch points through the process. All of this helps ensure that the updated plan is both evidence-based and community-driven. So with that, Martha, I'll lead you, or I'll have you lead the next poll question here for the team.
Yeah, so we wanted to know, when you think about growth, which topics are most important to you? And also with some of the previews that Adam was just giving. So question A, are we allowing enough of the right types of housing in the right places? Option B, can our roads, mobility networks, and pipes support us as we grow? So infrastructure matters. And C, will we have access to parks, nature, and other community amenities? Or D, all of the above? Fantastic. Thanks for the responses. So many of you saying all of the above, and you're in luck, because if these are the topics, we're really pleased to introduce to you how you can get involved next. So next slide, please, Adam. So as we go forward, we have topic-based public sessions that are going to be getting launched, and we'll share details and dates in the chat with everyone, so you can register for these. But they will be 3 distinct topics. Each meeting will be a different topic, so you are welcome to choose the topic that matters most to you or register for all of them. So our first topic will be the housing and livability. Are we supporting the right types of housing development in the right places to meet the community needs? Topic 2 will be that transportation and infrastructure question. Can our roads, our pipes, our systems support future growth? And topic 3 will be growing complete communities. Will we have sufficient and equitable access to the amenities that you have come to love, your parks, your nature, and your community services? So Darby has dropped the registration links in the chat. And if you go to the next slide, we have dates for these sessions. So the housing and livability session will be on Tuesday, July 15th, similar time to our earlier session, the noon time as a virtual webinar. The transportation infrastructure session will be at noon on July 16th, and the growing complete communities topic will be Thursday, July 17th, also at noon. So we really encourage everyone to register for these sessions. It could be the topic that you're most interested in, or all of them as required. And it will be a further discussion and deeper dive into these topics with the project team as well. Next slide. I'm going to pass it back to Adam just to talk about the project timeline. And very quickly, we're going to be getting into our question and answer session. We have one question, a couple questions that have come in. So please, for those who maybe have joined since we first started, there is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, or a chat function, and we encourage you to submit questions. And I'll pass it over to Adam to talk about next steps in the project.
Thank you so much, Martha. So just bringing it all together, here's a quick look at our project timeline. So as you can see here, we've divided the project into effectively 3 phases, the first of which was already completed through March and April, when our team was brought on board to assist the city with this work. And that was effectively looking at just a background review of available data and plans, and developing the engagement plan and roadmap forward for the strategy. We are required to complete this project by the end of the calendar year per provincial mandate. So we have 2 phases remaining, and we are currently in phase 2, which is the technical analysis and policy review, as well as the primary public engagement, which is informing our findings and recommendations for the plan's update. That will be going on through April through to September, through most of summer, and into the beginning of fall. And in phase 3, we will be looking forward to bring forward the actual update in terms of policies to the document itself and the adoption process through council, which will include the required mandatory public information session. And that will be going from September through to December, when we are required to have the update completed by for the province. So with that, I'm happy to hand it back to Martha here, and we're happy to answer your questions as you bring them forward, either through the chat function or through the question and answer function. You're also invited to, if you'd like to use the raise hand function, if you'd like to ask us verbally as well. And we're happy to get into that discussion. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Adam. And next slide, if just for those who want a little bit of assistance on the Q&A. So one question came in just off the top about the engagement. Will the sessions be recorded? So yes, this session is being recorded today, and we will be posting it to the Social Pinpoint page for reference for those who are unable to attend. But we also intend to record the sessions that are upcoming in July as well. Those may not be recorded or posted necessarily. They're going to be quite long, but we will make them available for those who maybe wanted to dive into those conversations. We'll discuss that. Because we anticipate, as those sessions are 90 minutes, they are going to be a bit more meeting-like, with a little bit more dialogue in terms of sharing and asking questions. Thank you. Oh, great. And then how are these topics decided? So the 3 topics outlined through those topic areas really are some of the community issues that do pertain to growth and how growth may impact the community. Adam, did you want to describe, or Nancy, a little bit more about how those 3 topics were decided?
Sure thing. Thanks, Martha. So yes, effectively, we are working on a bit of a scoped timeline for this exercise here per the provincial requirement. So at its core, this OCP update is intending to serve as a technical update to the 2022 OCP without reinventing the wheel. So we want to reflect the technical ask that we have from the province, which is to meet that housing need and making sure that we have the capacity and the infrastructure moving forward. And so we worked with staff to refine those items down. That said, there will be opportunities. They're a general guideline for the discussion through the 3 different engagement sessions there, but there may be opportunities if there are specific items that you would like to provide feedback on that we can also encourage you to provide through those meetings or through other means, including written feedback to our team. Nancy, is there anything else did I cover that there? Is there anything else we're missing?
No, I think that captures it. I mean, a community, the mandate's housing. We need to service the housing. That's the second question, transportation pipes. And then, of course, the livability part. We all want to be more than just a home with some pipes, giving us water, etc. So, yeah, that the aspects most impacted by growth and housing change.
Great. And we have one question that came through our Q&A tool, so please keep them coming. This question, I'll read it just to make just because I'm not necessarily sure what they're referencing in terms of growth concept, but they say, what's the time frame for the growth concept? So I think perhaps maybe the length of time, but I'll pass it over to the panel.
Yeah, I can see if I'm answering correctly. I saw actually the question pop up while I was speaking in my slides.
Yeah.
So if the question is indeed referring back to the official community plan 2022 and the modeling that happened right before that, that was actually a 10-year plan. So that plan kicked off in 2020. The logo and everything is a compass going to 2030. And so we were doing population projections based on those estimates of what we thought our community would be growing at that time, based on, believe it or not, 2016 census, because that's what was most available to us at the time. And so we were, those growth projections were showing 1.5% growth and actually tapering off into like a 1% over time. Well, then the pandemic happened, then the census 2021 came about, and then just in the last few years, we know that we're growing faster than that. We're actually growing closer to that 2%. So the original planning scope for the OCP 2022 was 10 years, but now we're realizing, it's actually, even though I said we did not expect to have to revisit our OCP so soon, we knew we were going to have to revisit at some time to recognize that we are growing faster. The other thing too is that the previous OCP had to have housing needs identified in it. From the province had already been requiring local governments to do that for 5-year estimates at a time. And so what happened in 2023 with all that other housing legislation is they told local governments we have to be planning for 20 years of housing. So that also shifted as well. So yeah, hopefully that helps give a sense of some of those timelines and parameters.
Thanks, Nancy. We had another great question come in with a comment. So starting with the comment, the economics of the world has changed dramatically since 2019 and 2022. So specifically with this, what is the problem that we are trying to solve with the updated OCP? Is it faster approvals in terms of land use? Is it more housing available? What will the OCP updates address?
Nancy, I can take an initial shot at this one, and you can follow up on this case if you'd like. But the mandate from the province has largely been in recognition of the challenges many in our communities have with finding attainable housing, and recognizing there are many different actors that have an influence on that. Some of which are within municipal control, and others that are not. But at the municipal level, the biggest tool we have available is land use policy. And so, as Nancy mentioned, previous OCPs, some municipalities had been updating theirs fairly recently and regularly, and others had not. And so the province has asked municipalities, or now required municipalities, to regularly update their long-term plans, recognizing that these provide the community with a clear expectation of how their communities will grow over the longer term, recognizing that land use changes often take a long time to implement too. So even 5 years from now, policies that we make may not really result in shovels in the ground right away, but it helps us plan for long-term change within our community as they continue to grow over time. While we can continue to ensure that we're able to invest in the things we need to, like schools, hospitals, roads, and transit, ensuring that we have enough parkland and access to open space, and also looking at some more holistic things, including sustainability, ensuring that we're meeting certain green objectives for access to nature, and ensuring that our buildings are not creating an undue amount of carbon into the atmosphere. There's a number of other figures that we're also looking at too. But to the core of the question, the province's core focus for this update is housing and meeting the need of that 20-year housing need. We are still going to look at some of these other factors and update them in line with those strategic plans that I mentioned that the council and staff have been updating since the 2020 OCP, but housing is the core one. Alongside employment, I do want to note we'll also be looked at our need for employment land within the community as well. But again, housing is the key solve for this time around. Go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, I can just add this piece too, which I don't think we've mentioned yet, which is concurrently to this work, although it occurs just a little bit behind this particular project, is an update to our zoning bylaw. And so the zoning bylaw will be updated also by the end of the year, which is a requirement of the province, to pre-zone, have the zoning in place for those 20 years of housing. So I guess the problem to solve that the province was getting at, directing at us, was to make sure that the OCP sets the direction for the land use designations, and then close on the heels is enabling the zoning, so that there's a more predictable understanding for the community, for council, for the development community to build that housing.
Yeah. And just a question popped up while we were providing our answers, I think specifically Adam, about, and this is a good one, what do we mean by attainable housing? There's many definitions in terms of affordable housing, so perhaps we can maybe address that. What do we mean when we say attainable housing?
That was a great question, and it is really a spectrum when we talk about it. And there was some really great work that's informing our analysis on this front with regards to different types of housing and how attainable it is. The Housing Needs Report that was recently published in 2024 that has set the housing target obviously identifies a total amount of housing that we need to try to provide within the next 20 years. But it does also look at other different segments of housing. So housing for people that are experiencing homelessness, housing for people that are extreme core housing needs. So, for example, the types of housing that may not be suitable either due to the condition of the building or the size of the building for their households. Also, things like suppressed household formation. So, just the availability of housing versus people that would like to form households, recognizing that there are many in our community that maybe are living with their parents or roommates that would otherwise like to find opportunities. And so, these are things that are considered. There are also issues of how we define it according to income. And so we do things like see things like supportive housing for income tested housing that is set, for example, often by CMHC as a standard definition, but communities are welcome to also set their own targets for. And that is something we are looking at as part of the study as well, too, is in terms of how we want to provide for different types of housing across that spectrum. I will note as well too here that while the OCP is needing to be updated as part of this update by the province also did introduce a number of additional tools for municipalities to use, including the introduction of inclusionary zoning bylaws as a standardized tool. And so that's something we're looking at enabling the community to use so that the city of Courtenay can require, in certain cases, a percentage of housing units be brought forward if they're being developed to be attainable or affordable according to the city's standard as to how they want to set that. And that's something we're looking at moving forward with as part of the study as well.
Anything you want to add to that, Nancy, or because and also another question popped up during our response, and I think this is a good one maybe just to discuss. Don't you already have zoning in place? So perhaps maybe just to discuss the zoning bylaw changes and things and the relationship to the zoning bylaw. Nancy, if you want to jump in, or Adam.
Yeah, I can answer that question. Absolutely. The city of Courtenay definitely has quite a bit of zoning in place, zoning to allow development that's already there, and zoning to allow future development. But it doesn't, it's not necessarily calibrated to the 20 years of housing needs. And so this is a chance for us to, with that provincial long view, asking us to look for 20 years out. This is a chance to look at our zoning and see if anything in it needs to change to make sure that we have enough housing. The other thing too is we want to make sure that we are following the OCP land use designation. So it could mean seeing more housing, maybe even higher densities, etc., in the primary growth centers where we've already said where we want to direct growth. So those are some of the changes might happen. And then Adam just mentioned it, how there's some new tools from the province, we're getting a little technical here, but they're called the density benefits or bonus policies and the inclusionary zoning ones. And those can be built into the zoning bylaw as well to help meet some of those below market housing needs. So that's all where the zoning bylaw should be looked at to see how it can be tweaked to meet those housing needs. I notice our director, Marianne Wade, has her hand up. So Marianne, please go.
Thanks, Nancy. Yes, I just wanted to add on to what you and Adam were saying. And part of the looking at the zoning bylaws also that it is quite dated in its approach. And there's a lot of things that we're looking at as far as how do we be consistent about calculating density? What are we doing with parking requirements? What are we doing with bicycle facilities and bicycle? So there's a lot of details that we're going to look at in order to make it more efficient in the delivery of developments. And a lot of those things have come out of the policy manuals from the province as well, which we have incorporated into our SHMU zone, which we are very much in tune with how we can make things better and more efficient within our zoning bylaw, which is a goal of the zoning bylaw as well.
I think it's also worth noting as well that as part of this update that the province has required for all communities across the province, that one thing that was introduced was a change to minimum permissions on all residential lands as well, something called small scale multi-unit housing. But effectively, it has increased the permissions for all residential units in every community over 5,000 total population. So that if you want to, you can add a secondary suite or a carriage house to your existing parcel or your property within some certain restrictions, but effectively it's intended to unlock some gentle density options within the community. And so that's something we're also looking at as part of our analysis. I will note here, though, just given how recently the land use framework was introduced, that we are intending as part of this study to understand what the capacity is within the vision that was put forward as part of that urban growth structure that was shown previously. Because I think the city did a lot of great work and the community was already engaged about what types of built forms would be permitted in those regards. So we're doing an analysis right now looking at sites that are likely to redevelop over the next 20 years and understanding how much that could bring forward towards our housing needs. And our intent is to not have to change the general outlook for the community if we don't have to. And I think we have a great foundation to work with. And it's just making sure that, again, the zoning is clear, concise, that the community knows what to expect, that if someone wants to build in the community at the same time, that they know what to expect about how much they can realistically bring forward. And so that we are clear in our expectations as well when we plan for things like roads and infrastructure and schools and parks. So there's a much clearer expectation all the way through the process that hopefully will bring those efficiencies at the same time.
Thanks, Marianne, Adam, and Nancy. And speaking to some of both the upcoming engagement session topics, but also some of the discussion so far, we did have a question come in around how can the city keep up with roads and bridges with traffic and population increases? And there's already some points that are frustrating to community members. So how do we continue to keep up with our infrastructure, our transportation infrastructure?
Yeah, that's a great question and always a pertinent one when we're talking about growth and recognizing that as we add more community members to our neighborhoods, that does put stress on our existing infrastructure, our pipes, our roads, our buses, and everything in between. And so we are lucky to have a great team from Appleton Martin who've joined us for this study who are looking at the current load on infrastructure as it exists today. And that will be part of that second engagement session. If there are specifics that anyone is interested in talking about that in regards to what might change, where we're seeing bottlenecks already, and how that might be expected to change moving forward. Because part of the OCP is intended to guide where the city will make investments with regards to things like roads and sewers and everything in between to make sure that we are meeting that need and hoping to alleviate those pinch points as we move forward as well. Hi, Nancy.
Yeah, I can just add on the topic of transportation too, which is always a very hot one. The city is very aware of, transportation needs and what's not working. The official community plan 2022, it was very explicit about looking for ways to put housing and jobs and commercial services, community services in areas that could allow more people to walk to meet some daily needs, to get to school, maybe bike and transit. And that was all very intentional, was locating those areas of growth to work with transit and et cetera. And I just want to make clear, I mean, that the city never expects that someone can totally get rid of their car. I mean, we are in a rural community, those are needed. But there's a lot of people who spoke very excitedly about having more opportunity to switch certain trips in their day by walking, cycling, and maybe even transit. So that's part of the vision too, is that we actually shift the what we would call modal split, so transportation modal split, from 15% of walking, cycling, and transit, which it is approximately today, to 30% by 2030, and even start to bump those numbers up as we get into the deeper future, which really only that becomes viable if people are really, maybe really living downtown and living along those routes. So we'll have to see if we can meet, longer range targets on that regard. But just want to help people understand that part of the intention is to actually help people find other ways to get around in addition to the vehicle.
And I think I should also just mention for context here, it's important to keep in mind that the official community plan is really the umbrella plan for everything in the community. It sets the vision and it sets some of the very high level, 10,000 feet in the air idea of how the community will grow. There are several other plans that the city is working on that help to enable that growth and implement it at the ground level. And those each focus on different elements, again, as Nancy mentioned earlier, that will conform, that have to conform with the general vision of the OCP. But we do have some other plans that are also going on in process, including the zoning bylaw update, which will probably be the most directly linked. But we also do have things like a parks master plan. We also have the downtown vitalization area plan, which is also actively underway and will be conducted and developed in parallel to the studies, which looks specifically at the downtown and encouraging growth in a way that the community is supportive of. And a number of others that will continue to grow up. And the idea is that this plan is to be both providing that vision and that guidance, but also to be flexible. It's meant to be a living document that can evolve over time. So we have a clear framework that gives the community confidence that they know where their community will be in 5, 10, and 20 years' time.
Great. Thank you. And just a reminder, continue to drop your questions in the chat or in the question function. And if you want to speak, you're very welcome to raise your hand and we'll unmute you so you can ask your question. We had a question come in around council, and council is council supportive of development. And I thought it was a good opportunity to describe maybe the council's role in the approval of the process and the long-term approval required for the OCP update.
Yeah, I can pop in there. So council, just to maybe get back to that process. So council will receive a draft bylaw following all the consultation. They'll receive an engagement report outlining what the public said, and part of that will be at those sessions in July, and then there'll be an open house likely in September. So all that information will get packaged, given to council. A draft OCP bylaw will be presented, and then they will go through, bylaws have to go through 4 readings. And so there'll be a first reading, then it'll go through statutory referrals. That means there are certain bodies we absolutely have to refer to, such as First Nations and school districts and et cetera. And then others that council directed us to engage with. And then there'll be a public hearing as well. And then council will take all of that into a mind when deciding on that third and adoption of the official community plan, all of which has to happen. The province asked that we all do that by the end of this year. Now, the question of whether council is pro-development is another kind of aspect to that question. I just noticed our director who works very directly with council has her hand up, so let's let her answer that one.
Thanks, Nancy. Yes. I think it's really important to note that council has set a series of strategic priorities for themselves. And part of those strategic priorities deal with streamlining developments, affordable housing, active transportation, the environment, and those are all covered off in how we update the OCP. So those strategic priorities guide our work within the OCP and development as we move forward with this. And it will be, council has been very supportive over various forms of housing as it moves through the system, in particular with trying to address affordable housing in the community. And I wouldn't want to comment any further on that statement, but I think the strategic priorities speak well to where council's initiatives are, and I would welcome they're available on our webpage.
Yeah, thanks, Marianne. Speaking of the council strategic plan, there is a question that also came up about what is the timeline that it is taking for development plans to be approved. The website is stating 3 to 5 years. Is this the case? The 3 to 5, is it still taking 3 to 5 years for a development plan to be approved?
So I can, talk briefly to that, Martha.
Yeah.
So first of all, when we say development plan, there's a whole range of development applications. So a development permit, everything completed, the applicant is providing the information, answering the questions. Those can be done within a 3-month period. If it's a more complex one, it might take slightly longer, maybe another month or two. But generally speaking, we're able to turn around the development permits with the cooperation of the applicant within 3 months. In regards to newer applications with rezonings, we've ranged everywhere from 4 months up to under a year. And then the older ones have taken longer just because there's some different components to it. So we will be updating all those. And when part of our work moving forward is developing metrics for our development approvals, which will be a task that we'll be looking at in 2026.
Thanks, Marianne. We had a question, I believe, about the SSMU district. How many applications have you received under SSMU in the last year?
Yeah, I
Do
can
not have that on the top. Yeah.
I'm happy to give an estimate. It's interesting that same question came up in the last session, and I just want to let everybody know is improving our ability to track data on our building permits and with one click be able to generate some nice clean stats is something we're actively working on right now. So I actually don't have that specific number to answer on, but in terms of those like coming through for building permits, etc., it's probably in that kind of 20 range, and then we have quite a number of inquiries as well. And so, it seems to be a lot of interest, but just, those hitting building permits is a more moderate number.
And I think we also need to stress that it's a fairly new policy as well. It was only recently adopted. So it may take some time to see it fully roll out.
Yeah. And maybe for those on the call, SSMU
Small scale multi-unit housing, but effectively it is the option to provide additional housing units on your residential property.
Okay, thanks all. Don't have too many more questions in the queue. So if there are any more questions, now's a great time to get them in. We do have about 9 more minutes left within the meeting time, if there are. We did have the last question that we have currently is asking around, how is council and maybe the city undertaken outreach with the development community? And I know perhaps as even part of this project, we can discuss the fact that there's opportunities where there will be outreach, but perhaps maybe Nancy or Marianne can speak to some of the outreach that's occurred with the development community.
I can speak to that, Martha, not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've started to have bi-monthly meetings with the development industry on various topics and reaching out, and there's been surveys set out on different topics. So we have established those meetings and are using that in a regular manner as we move forward. And if there's any site specific or any specific things that we're dealing with, then we will have specific meetings. And case in point, the development cost charges will be coming before council. And if we have to do extra meetings with the development community on that, that will certainly be part of the engagement process.
Thanks, Marianne. We don't have any new questions. If there are any comments or and if there are other questions or people would like to raise their hand, you have a few more minutes. But in the meantime, we'll go to the next slide to talk about how you can continue to get involved. So some of you may have visited the social pinpoint page already, but that's going to continue to be the hub of information for the project. So recording of this session will be posted there, summary of meetings that we have and upcoming events and ways to get involved will continue to be posted to social pinpoint. So even currently right now, the links to our next sessions are posted and you can register for those events. Also, you can sign up to receive email updates, and you can do that through Social Pinpoint. So if you'd like to receive project invitations, meeting invitations, and general updates, it's a great way to stay informed on this particular project. So sign up and drop your email, and you won't get too many emails, and will just be pertaining to this particular project. Darby just dropped the link to the Social Pinpoint page in the chat, so we encourage everyone to visit there. And then look for, again, so there'll be our upcoming webinars that you can register for, but there'll also be a community pop-ups, I believe at the Canada Day events on behalf of the city. Is that correct, Nancy? And you'll see more opportunities to continue to be involved throughout the summer. So stay tuned. And anything to add to that, Nancy, Marianne, before we continue on?
I'd just say, for those who are interested today, please tell your friends. Obviously, there's a lot of questions out there. I appreciate too that the public might be thinking, hey, didn't we just go through this process? Why are we doing it again? So if you find that you're talking to people and those kinds of questions are coming up, of course, everybody cares about housing and everybody cares about their communities. So just send them to the website and there will be more opportunities to engage, as Martha said there.
And we really appreciate everyone's time this evening. Great questions coming in, and we appreciated the discussion. And I think for now, thank you very much. Any final words, Marianne or Adam, before we sign off? No more questions are in the queue.
I just want to thank everybody for taking time this evening to participate and encourage everybody to sign up for one of the other sessions and to come find us at Canada Day and our pop-up. And please stay in touch on the Social Pinpoint page where all the updates will be. So thanks very much.
Great.
Just echoing that, yeah, we really appreciate your time tonight and hope to see you at these engagement sessions and around town, as well as it will guide the work and the analysis that we do and help us in developing an update to this plan that reflects the community at the end of the day. So thank you all and wishing you all a great night.
Thanks all. We'll end the webinar for now and stay tuned for more information. Oh, do we have it? Is that chat? Great. Thank you. Bye now.